Hello and welcome to KLAA Community Cares, a program that helps us understand the needs in our community and introduces us to experts and organizations who are trying to make positive changes in Southern California. With your host, Tammy Trujillo.
Hi, and welcome to this edition of Community Cares. We are so glad you're with us today. We're going to have some fun today. We're going to talk about some crazy stuff, but some very serious things as well. And as we go along, you'll catch up with what we're messing with here, because Leslie Blanchard and I have been talking for a while here. Leslie is our guest. She's an amazing lady. She is a mom of 5 kids, and she writes a blog on her website, agingersnapped.com, and with some very interesting insight into parenting and what's going on in the world. And I love Leslie's outlook on things. That's why I thought, let's get her on the show. Let's talk to her. So, Leslie, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I've been looking forward to this for weeks as we were putting this together. I've got to start just with the name of the website, though, A Ginger Snapped. That's intriguing. Give me some background.
Well, I'm a redhead.
Okay.
So I've been married for 33 years, and I have 5 children.
Mm-hmm.
I think my family thinks I snap all the time. So whenever I get off on a tangent, they're saying, oh, the ginger snapped again. And
oh, my gosh.
So that was just the migration, pretty easy migration for the name of the blog. The blog is mostly me just ranting about whatever. So
okay.
Usually picking on myself, telling stories about the dumb things I do, but every now and then I'll get rolling on something else.
Okay. Well, you've got a lot of stories on the blog. I had a good time looking through it. Let's talk about your life. Married for 33 years, 5 kids.
Right. I met my husband when we were both 17. We were born a week apart, and so we met at work, part-time jobs in high school, and fell in love and got married and had a whole bunch of kids, more than anybody else. We didn't really plan it that way, but that's the way it worked out. We had 2 daughters immediately. I graduated from college and had 2 daughters immediately, and then I thought I would go on to law school from there, so we didn't have any children for a while. And then as I was raising my daughters, I started to feel like it was going to be harder to leave them as they got older. I guess if I was going to go to law school and go out into the work world, I should have done it when they were smaller, but the older they got, the needier they got, and the more it seemed like there was just constant issues to address. And I kind of saw the writing at the wall for me at that point. My husband was getting transferred a lot. That was really one of the main things, too. And I saw the writing on the wall and realized I was probably going to be home as a full-time mom and thought, well, do it at big. So I had 3 more. So we've got a 7-year gap in between our first 2 and our last 3.
Wow.
But we have 5 total.
Okay. And what are the age ranges now?
They are 29, 26. Our oldest just got married. She's 29, and she graduated from law school and is an attorney in Oklahoma City. And then our second daughter's 26, and she's at Fordham Law School in Manhattan. So where I didn't go to law school, I'm making attorneys. So I'm doing my part, making attorneys instead of being one myself. And our third daughter, then there's the gap, and our third daughter is 21, and she's the one that the article that caught your eye. She's the one that article is actually about. And then we have 2 sons. One is 18, just graduated from high school, and another one is 16, just about to get his driver's license.
Wow.
So we are all over the place.
You are?
We are. I've seen it all.
Wow. Teenagers to
Newly
way
married.
Adults.
Yeah.
Way adults. That's crazy.
Don't let anybody tell you that when they're married, you can cross child rearing off your list and you're done with them, because I am still daily engaged in the lives of my 20-something-year-olds.
But I think that's awesome.
It's fun.
That is so neat. I don't have kids. I never had kids. I did the opposite of what you did. I got super involved in the work thing and all of a sudden realized, gee, it's kind of too late for the kids.
Well, I think it's fascinating if you really think about it, and many of my friends and I discuss this type of thing all the time. I think we want to think that the decisions that we made in life were all very well thought out and very well planned and very geared towards our nature and our bent. my experience is that a lot of our decisions are circumstantial.
Oh, yes.
It just happens to be that, you live month to month or
Yep.
year to year, and you make the decisions for where you are at that particular moment in your life. And if something had been just slightly different in yours or slightly different in mine, I'd be where you are, you'd be here where I am.
Exactly.
It's just, and so that's why I wish women were a little easier on one another. It's almost like the decisions get made, and then everybody spends their life trying to defend the decision they made like it was the very best. I know I have women who have friends of mine that have fabulous careers that could have absolutely been home full-time in it as a mom, and many of my friends who are full-time moms would have been amazing out there kicking a lot of butt in the work world.
But I love that, and you're one of the first people, Leslie, I've ever heard to say that, and I've thought about it often. It was the right decision at the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I never planned to stay home. It was just each year and each development in my husband's career and our marriage, and we were always doing what felt best for us as a couple. It wasn't necessarily that we just pursued his career, but he had a career and it was on the move. I was trying to finish up college. We purposely planned our first pregnancy to dovetail with a few months after my graduation. We had Emily. Jim had some success with his career. We moved around a little bit. We thought, you know what, let's go ahead and have another baby, and we did. And you know what I'm saying? It was just one thing after another.
Right.
And I remember at some point when Emily and Molly were about 9 and 7, I thought, you know what, I don't think I'm going to make it to law school. I'm going to have a few more kids. And I did. And
Yeah.
I thought, well, maybe I'll go later, but now I'm just too tired.
Oh, well, law school's a lot of
I
work.
don't care anymore.
Yeah.
No, I'm just going to send all of them to law school.
But that's interesting. Did the girls go to law school because they knew your story?
I think so.
Yeah?
I think so. I'm not sure that. I don't know what they would say. It'd be interesting. Maybe you need to have us all on. Have all 4 of the Blanchard girls on and listen to us interrupt one another. We call it social interaction, interacting and interrupting. But they might have a different viewpoint on that. But I think so. I think they grew up, hearing my story and thought, well, I'll just do that.
Yeah, I'm sure they like what they're doing. That it's a passion for them. But
They do, and there's some nature involved, of course. My desire to be in law school came from my dad's, and we're all sort of geared that way. We like to make a case and then persuade and defend. So.
Yep. Well, early in my career, one of my thoughts was I wanted to be an entertainment lawyer.
Yeah.
So it was there. But you're absolutely right. If anybody would have told me X number of years ago, I won't say how many, No, we never do that. That I would never have kids, that I wasn't going to have kids in my life. I would have said, are you nuts?
Yeah,
I'm going to have at least one little girl for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah,
same here. If somebody had told me you won't have a career, I graduated magna cum laude and carted my diploma off the stage. Now, granted, I was a few months pregnant, and I knew I was going to have a baby first, but I absolutely believed that I would have a career. So I was a journalism major in college and wrote for the college paper and obviously my high school paper when I was a little younger. And then had the kids, and there really wasn't an opportunity to write except for my family Christmas letter, which I wrote every December. And, people would say, oh, you should write a blog. Whenever blogging, I don't really remember when blogging first kind of crossed my radar, but I remember people saying you ought to blog, and I thought, oh, I don't even know what that is. And I think a few more years went by before I really knew what it was, and then I told people, oh, that ship sailed. And so that shows you how wrong I was, because I think blogging is really just getting going now.
Now, I haven't gotten into it yet, and I've thought about it, and people have said, hey, you should blog. I'm thinking, oh, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Perhaps. Who knows? It could happen. Yeah. But you are an insane blogger. You were on there all the time.
Well, thank you. I have a lot of fun with it. I think that I've noticed that people want to connect with other people.
Yeah.
And they want relevancy. And they love to just hear, really, it's just sort of mundane, but it's interesting, I think, just what's going on with other people's lives.
It is.
People have just a few minutes they want to devote. They don't necessarily always want to grab a novel. Everybody doesn't want to read War and Peace.
Right.
Sometimes they want to read a 3-minute synopsis of somebody's life in another part of the country, or dovetailing back to what we were just talking about, somebody that they can respect who made a different choice and took a different path in life.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to hear about that.
I've got to ask you how your husband and kids feel about the blog, because they're in it.
You know, they've been amazing. My husband, I think I said earlier, we met when we were 17, started dating when we were 18, got engaged when we were 19. You know, we've been together forever, and he is a very private, or at least started out as a very private person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was private. And I would say something, and his family's different from mine, and I would say something, and he'd say, you know, hey, just let you know, like, they don't really need to know that. You didn't really have to share that. And it might be anything, what he got for Christmas or something. He'd say, you don't need to tell people all that stuff. And I'd be like, really? I just mentioned you got a sweatshirt for Christmas. He was just very private. Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know, maybe it's hard to be private when you got a big marriage and a bunch of kids, and
I would think so.
Maybe he just lost that somewhere along the way, because he shocks me. I don't know if you read my my blog about getting a hickey.
No, I didn't.
Well, one Sunday morning I woke up and I was just getting ready for church and putting on my makeup, and I looked in the mirror and I go, what's that? And he goes, what? And I said, well, that. And he said, what? And I looked and he was like, oh, that's a hickey.
Oh, my gosh.
And I said, oh, my gosh.
Excuse
me? We're getting ready to go to church. We're about to take all our kids to church. Oh, my gosh. And I said, wow, that's like your Saturday night hickey clashing with your Sunday morning neck.
No kidding.
I just could not believe it. And we go to a big church, Catholic, and of course we've got 5 kids, so we don't enter, it's not like we walk in incognito.
Right.
We're pretty large when we walk into Mass. And so, of course, I started, with the makeup and everything. But what was so funny, and the only reason I brought it up is because he said, oh, there's a blog. And I said, are you kidding me? That's not a blog. I'm not blogging about that. And he goes, sure you are. That's hilarious. And I was like, no, that's embarrassing, Jimmy. I'm not blogging about that. And he goes, you've got to blog. And so he just pushed me, and I thought, okay, he has just done a full 180.
No kidding.
In 20-something years. I've been shocked. If you had told me, we've been married 33 years, if you had told me 20-some-odd years ago, you'll write something. Of course, we didn't even have the internet back then.
Right.
My range, my reach was, my organic reach. Anybody whose address I could send a Christmas letter to. But if you had told me there's going to be this vehicle with which you're going to be able to just write, and I'm not kidding, I lay in the bathtub. I mean, it's just like the logo on my, on my website.
Which is
I
great.
am laying in the bathtub on my iPad, typing away whatever went on that day or that week that we think is funny. And but if you had told me that, and that he would be so open to me sharing that, I would say, you're absolutely wrong. You've mistaken us for someone else.
Yeah, our forecasting is a little shaky sometimes, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is the theme this morning. But our oldest 2 daughters have been a little bit more like, we have professional lives. Kind of maybe check with us. And so sometimes I do. It depends on what it is. Third daughter, Gracie, who's in college, we call her our Oklahoma Kardashian. She is just like, Mom, you've got to blog about me, everything. Just, embellish if you need to.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, no, she has zero boundaries. She does not care. And so, and that's, honestly, getting back to that blog I wrote that kind of captured your attention, that is one of the wonderful things about the fact that my daughter has been so boundaryless. Mm-hmm. Because, it was a post about her kind of bullying another child.
Well, let's hold on to that thought right now, Leslie, because we'll take a break and then come back, and I want to do that whole story.
Sure.
Because it is an astonishing story, and even though I'm not a parent, it certainly is a revelation, or was a revelation to me, and might be to other parents. So stick with us here. We're going to take a quick break on Community Cares, come back, and boy, we got a story for you.
Hi, am Joe Torre. I grew up in a violent home where my dad abused my mom. That's why my wife Allie and I created the Joe Torre Safe at Home Foundation. Through our safe rooms in schools, we have reached countless children who live in fear and witness violence in their homes, schools, and communities. Our goal is to provide support and education to end the devastating cycle of domestic violence. I am asking you to join me. Help us reach our goal to keep our children safe at home. Donate today at joetorre.org to be a part of our all-star team. Together, we can help save lives.
And now back to KLAA Community Cares with Tammy Trujillo.
All right, welcome back to Community Cares. We're having a great time today. Our guest is Leslie Blanchard. She is a mom of 5, wife of 1, a crazy nuts blogger. I love it. Her website is at gingersnapped.com. Now, we've got a story here. This is the story that led me to Leslie. I heard this and I thought, this is incredible. I've got to bring her on the show and talk about this. So, Leslie, this is a story about one of your daughters. And I'm going to let you tell it because you tell it way better than I do. What happened?
Okay, this is my third daughter, and so I was giving her some props right before the break about being so open to me sharing her life. And when this particular post just blew up, I didn't initially put it on my website at gingersnap.com because I write mostly funny stories about family and marriage and so forth and so on. And this one was a bit of a departure. It was slightly more serious, and I just wrote it for the Huffington Post. And I read it to my husband, and he was like, yeah, it's okay. And I was like, oh, he didn't like it. He's kind of my first editor. And it was in the queue. It was in the editor's queue at Huffington Post. I said, well, it's gonna probably go live on Huffington Post in the next day or two. But anyway, this post blew up. It's been on the front page of Huffington Post Quebec, Spain, France. I mean, it's been all through South America and Europe and so forth and so on. And I really actually have never put it on my website, but it's been on, lots of other websites. But what the story is essentially this. My daughter was in 4th grade, and she came home from school, and I encourage parents to keep the radio off and when you're driving your kids home from school because they just tend to give you a lot of feedback. And if you're really listening, you'll pick up a lot. And she said, this girl at school is annoying me. And I said, she's annoying you? So I was instinctively protective at first.
Right. What's she
and
doing?
I said, what is she doing to you? And she said, well, she's following me around on the playground, and she's sitting by me in the lunchroom. She's putting her lunch tray right down by mine. And I thought, whoa. She's trying to be your friend? And my daughter looked at me and was like, I guess she's annoying me.
Wow.
And so I dug a little deeper, and it was heartbreaking. It made me mad, and it was heartbreaking. But I also thought, I've got 5 kids. We all know bullying is an epidemic in this country.
You bet it
My
is.
first 2 daughters would come home and tell me stories where they were more, the Bethany, character. They were more the one that was trying to establish a friendship with maybe a little popular girl. I know we all hate that word, but who was just not interested in wanting to have anything to do with them. And then my childhood was the same way. I was a little redheaded, freckle-faced army brat. We moved around all the time.
Yep.
And my job when we moved to a new place was to, make you like me. Show you that, hey, I'm interesting, I'm fun, I'd be a great friend for you. I would enhance your life, but you're jumping through some hoops trying to convince people.
Oh, yes.
Hey, give me a shot. But anyway, so that's what I realized. I thought, what statistics are. I'm on my 3rd child, and I've got the little girl that is a little bit TikTok, the game's locked, not really looking for a friend. And she was rejecting this little girl. And we talked a little bit more about it that afternoon. I called that mom that night, and I said, tell me a little bit about what you think's going on with the girls. She confirmed my suspicions. Her daughter was crazy about my daughter and wanted to become friends, and my daughter was very dismissive, had her own friends already, and just wasn't interested in any kind of a connection on any level. And that started the whole thing. I had a talk with my daughter, and I said, you need to at least give this little girl a chance. Tell me some things about her that you think are interesting. Well, she couldn't tell me anything, bad or good. I said, well, you just haven't gotten to know her at all. So I said, tomorrow you're going to go to school, and you're going to come home and tell me 3 cool things about Bethany. And my daughter dug her heels in. I didn't write this in the blog article because it was just too in depth, but she refused. She dug her heels in, and I said, well, you're not going to school tomorrow. I mean, I'm not driving you.
And she's about 9, right? 9-ish, 10-ish?
She was about 10,
Okay.
about 9 or 10. And I said, I knew that at this point in her life, I still had the car keys and some influence. I mean, certainly there is a point in your children's lives where you've done the best you can do. Like I said, I've got 5. They're not all carbon copies of me, but, they do, for the most part, espouse our value system.
Right.
But I thought, I'm going to influence you a little bit here, and I'm going to have to use a little leverage. I said, well, I'm not driving you to school tomorrow. And the next day she woke up and got dressed and was like, let's go. And I said, well, are you going to do what I asked you to do and give this little girl a chance, get to know a few things about her? She dug her heels in and said, absolutely not.
Wow.
And, yeah, she's strong-willed.
No
and,
kidding.
I said, well, then we're just going to sit here.
Wow.
Because I send you to school and I pay your tuition, et cetera. And she was at the time going to a little Catholic school, and I just thought, well, this flies in the face of everything that we're about and what we're trying to do here and what the school's trying to do.
Sure does.
So it was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon before she finally realized that I meant business.
Wow.
And I drove her to school, and she got in the car a couple hours later when I picked her up. She had to hustle. She didn't have a lot of time.
Right.
She only had, just a fraction of the day left.
Right.
And I said, tell me 3 cool things about Bethany. And she did. I don't remember
Okay.
now what they were, but it was a little bit more than, I don't want to know her favorite color. I mean, I want to know things about her.
Right. You had to talk
I do
to
remember
her.
one thing she was telling me about Bethany's siblings, her, being the oldest with younger siblings, which Gracie, which resonated with Gracie because she had 2 baby brothers at the time. And so she did, and those 2 little girls went on to be really good friends.
That's so cool.
And I write in the article that that family moved a few years later, and the 2 girls cried, and they've stayed in touch through their social channels. I've just been amazed as a mother when I'm with other moms, and I'm not mom judging or trying to pick on anybody, but I would encourage everybody to take a look at their parenting style, because I have so many friends and acquaintances that really micromanage what their kids eat and their homework, and they're very proud of the fact that they loom over their children from the time they get out of school till the homework's done.
Wow.
The dental hygiene, just everything in general, what the kids wear, the private tutoring, the lessons that private that they get for their sports endeavors. But then when you talk about social issues like this one, when I bring this story up at cocktail parties or wherever, a little happy hour with the moms, I get a lot of, we don't get involved and try to micromanage the kids' friendships. It just interests me. I wonder sometimes where people draw the line, because you make them go to school, you make them brush their teeth, you make them do their homework, and yet you're real hands-off on social issues.
Yeah, what kind of people they're becoming. Because what really impressed me here, first off, I got to congratulate you on how you handled it, because that was heads up and stellar. I mean, really great parenting. Wow. But what really caught me when I first heard the story is you said, oh my gosh, I'm raising a bully.
Right. They have parents. They're not spawning themselves. I mean, everybody needs to take a look at that. I have conversations with women. One of my favorite analogies is mosquitoes. Female mosquitoes are the ones that bite, and they actually don't make a sound. So how many times have you sat on the porch and you've been waving away a mosquito because you hear it buzzing around you, and nobody wants the Zika virus or whatever they're carrying, and you're flapping your hands and saying, oh, there's a mosquito, and, the one that's going to hurt you is not the one that you're aware of. The one that's going to hurt you is the silent one. And that's that female mosquito that's not making a sound, but she's biting you.
Right.
I just think that's interesting, because I've had a lot of women when I've been sitting around yakking with moms who've said, oh, we're not having that problem at all. And I'm like, how do you know?
Exactly.
And they'll say, well, we're just not hearing a word about it. And I want to say, well, you don't think your kid that's being mean at school is jumping in the car and telling you that, do you? If you're not hearing anything, you might want to ask some questions.
Because your daughter actually was taking this foray of, hey, I want to be your friend, as an assault almost on her, and was like, get away from me.
She perceived it somehow aggressive.
Yeah.
But I said, well, honey, she just moved here. She needs some friends. Who do you think is going to be her friend?
And it's incredible. Once they got to know each other, look what happened.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Look what happened.
She liked that little girl so much. Had a lot in common.
And she would have missed out. She would have missed out. She would have missed out. So, again, I just love the concept of raising a bully. Because your daughter's, I'm sure she was a lovely little girl despite that one incident. But you're right. If you hadn't have caught this, that kind of behavior would have persisted and gotten bigger, perhaps, as she got older.
So you're raising a very valid point, and one I like to talk a little bit about with other moms, too, and that is that parents seem to want to label their child as either, a victim, when nobody wants to label their child a bully, but I guess every now and then, maybe there's some parents out there that have had to say, yeah, we've got an aggressive kid. But it really isn't that way either. Gracie wasn't a bully. In this situation, she was a bully.
Right.
She had just as many times where she came home. Maybe she was setting her world on fire at school, but she had a dance class one time where she would come home and tell me stories, and I was like, wow, you're really a victim of this situation. It's not, you're not rocking your world right here.
Yeah.
And she would be the underdog, if you will, in a situation with respect to the social dynamics in her dance class. So, that's another thing I think parents really need to be aware of, too. It's not that your child is a bully or a victim. Just pay attention to that circumstance. Whatever the circumstance they're in right now. And it can change from really year to year or day to day. I think it can change a lot from school year to school year.
Yeah, well,
they might be the it girl in 4th grade, and then suddenly in 5th grade you see your kids behind the 8 ball.
Right, because somebody else moves into the picture or what's in
They're
changes.
Constantly.
Yeah.
The pecking order is constantly being reestablished and shuffled.
Well, it was when we were kids, too.
Yes, it was.
That's just how it is. Leslie, amazing. Keep, if you're parenting or even if you're not parenting right now, keep up with Leslie's blog because there's great stories like this. And again, you've got some of the coolest insight into this stuff. You are an amazing mom and an amazing lady. So,
thank you.
Oh, well, it's well deserved. The website is agingersnapped.com. I love the logo of you in the bathroom. It is just, or in the bathtub, rather. It's just too cute. And we're going to look forward to your stories, Leslie, and your insights because they're just fantastic.
Thank you so much.
All right, agingersnapped.com. Leslie Blanchard and her crazy, wonderful world, but also some great insights and lessons and just a lot of fun to check out. So take a look at it when you get a chance. That's this edition of Community Care. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we are going to catch you next week.